Have you ever looked up at the sky on a clear night and wondered if you're truly alone in this vast universe? It's a question that has fascinated humanity for centuries. Across cultures and generations, people have shared tales of mysterious lights, unexplained objects, and encounters that challenge everything we believe about reality. But when it comes to UFOs, or unidentified flying objects, skepticism is often the default. After all, how can we trust stories that seem so far out of the ordinary? Today I want to tell you about one of the most compelling and chilling UFO encounters ever recorded. This isn't just a story of strange lights in the sky or quick flashes that vanish before anyone can get a good look. This is a story about three ordinary people who came face to face with something extraordinary, something that left lasting physical scars and raised serious questions about what really happened that cold December night in 1980. This is the Vickie Landrum incident. Before we dive into the encounter itself, let me introduce you to the people whose lives would never be the same. Betty Cash was a 51-year-old Texas woman who ran a roadside diner. She was practical, grounded, and the last person you'd expect to be caught up in a UFO story. Betty's friend and co-worker, Vickie Landrum, was 57, a deeply religious woman with strong Christian beliefs that shaped how she interpreted the world around her. Along with them was Vickie's 7-year-old grandson, Colby, a quiet boy who would carry the psychological burden of that night for years to come. It was an ordinary Monday evening, December 29, 1980. The three had finished their regular bingo game and were driving back to Dayton, Texas, a small town nestled within the dense East Texas piney woods. This area is famous for its thick forests, tall pines, and a sense of isolation that makes you feel miles from anywhere, even when civilization isn't far off. It's the kind of place where the dark seems to swallow the light and silence reigns. As they drove along State Farm Road 1485, a lonely two-lane road cutting through this dense forest, they noticed a strange light glowing above the treetops. At first, they thought it was just a plane or a helicopter returning to Houston Intercontinental Airport some 35 miles away. But as they continued, the light revealed itself to be something far stranger. Imagine driving down a dark, isolated road, the trees looming on either side, when suddenly you see an enormous diamond-shaped object hovering silently just above the road ahead of you. That's exactly what Betty, Vickie, and Colby saw. The craft was massive, roughly the size of a water tower, metallic silver with flat truncated points on its top and bottom. Small blue lights circled its midsection, glowing softly in the night. Most striking, however, were the flames shooting down from the bottom of the object, spreading outward like the exhaust of a malfunctioning rocket. The heat was so intense it made Betty's car's metal exterior painfully hot to touch. She pulled over, unable to continue driving with this blazing object blocking the way. Betty stepped out of the car, drawn by a terrifying mix of fear and curiosity. Vickie stayed inside to comfort Colby, who was shaking with fright. What they witnessed defies easy description. The craft would periodically lower closer to the road, the flames dying down, then rise again as bursts of fire shot from underneath. The air shimmered with heat, and the oppressive brightness made it difficult to look directly at the object. Then, as if the spectacle wasn't strange enough, the witnesses saw a number of helicopters appear, flying in tight formation around the glowing diamond. These were identified as CH-47 Chinooks, large dual-rotor military helicopters. Betty claimed she could make out Air Force markings on at least one of them. Were these helicopters escorting the craft or pursuing it? The witnesses could only guess. The entire encounter lasted approximately 20 minutes, long enough for them to take in the horrifying details of the object, its fiery exhaust, and the helicopter formation. What makes the Vickie Landrum incident so chilling is not just the sighting itself, but what happened afterward. Within days, Betty Cash started experiencing severe symptoms. Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and burning sensations in her eyes were just the beginning. Large, painful blisters appeared on her skin, spreading quickly. Her condition worsened rapidly. On January 3, 1981, only 5 days after the encounter, Betty was rushed to the hospital. She had lost large patches of skin, hair fell out in clumps, and she was too weak to walk. Doctors initially treated her burns, but soon recognized symptoms consistent with radiation poisoning. This was terrifying. Exposure to an unknown source of radiation in the middle of a Texas forest. Vickie and Colby also suffered symptoms, though less severe. Vickie developed skin sores, weakness, hair loss, and later a cataract in one eye, a condition often associated with radiation exposure. Colby was psychologically traumatized, avoiding talking about the incident for years. Betty's health struggles continued. In 1983, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, adding to the tragedy. While no direct link could be proven, the timing raised serious concerns. Faced with mounting medical bills and no clear explanation, Betty, Vickie, and Colby sought answers. They contacted U.S. Senators Lloyd Bentsen and John Tower, who advised them to file a complaint with the Judge Advocate Claims Office at Bergstrom Air Force Base. There, they were interviewed extensively and urged to hire a lawyer. With attorney Peter Gersten working pro bono, the trio filed a $20 million lawsuit against the federal government. Their claim? Negligence and exposure to a secret military experiment gone wrong. What followed was a frustrating and painful legal battle. Government agencies, including the Air Force, Army, Navy, and NASA, denied any knowledge of the craft or helicopters. They testified no such aircraft were in the area on the night in question. Based on this testimony, a federal judge dismissed the case in 1986. The denial sparked more questions than answers. How could these military helicopters operate that night without any official record or acknowledgement? How could the witnesses' detailed and consistent stories be dismissed when backed by medical records documenting their injuries? Skeptics have proposed alternate explanations: confusion with military flares, misidentified helicopters, or hallucinations. Some pointed to the lack of other witnesses and uncertainties about the exact location. Yet the physical evidence, the burns, hair loss, cataracts, and more, set this case apart from many other UFO reports. Betty and Vickie stayed true to their story until their deaths. Betty passed away on December 29, 1998, exactly 18 years after the incident, and Vickie in 2007. Colby rarely spoke of the event but did appear on the TV show UFO Hunters Alien Fallout in 2009, showing the lasting psychological impact. The Cash Landrum incident has since been featured in numerous documentaries, TV specials, and books. What makes it so enduring isn't just the UFO sighting, but the severe physical consequences suffered by the witnesses and the persistent denial by official sources. John F. Schuessler, a prominent UFO researcher who investigated the case extensively, described it as one of the most medically significant UFO encounters ever recorded. He emphasized the credibility of the witnesses, noting their consistent and sober accounts over many years, and the physical injuries that could not easily be faked. "This isn't a case of overactive imaginations or mistaken identity," Schuessler said. "The injuries suffered are documented and consistent with radiation exposure. That, combined with the detailed observation of the object and helicopters, makes this one of the more credible UFO reports out there." On the medical side, radiation specialist Dr. Bruce Maccabee examined the witnesses' symptoms and noted that while the exact source of radiation remained unknown, the pattern closely resembled exposure to ionizing radiation. He cautioned, however, that without physical evidence of the craft or radiation measurements from the night, absolute certainty remained elusive. Skeptical investigator Robert Schieffer has pointed to the lack of precise location information and absence of other independent witnesses as reasons to question the incident's authenticity. Still, he acknowledged that the medical symptoms warranted further study and that the case is unusual even among UFO reports. The Cash Landrum incident is more than just a UFO story. It challenges us to confront the unknown with empathy and curiosity. It reminds us that sometimes ordinary people face extraordinary events, and their suffering deserves attention, not dismissal. It also raises important questions about transparency, government accountability, and the possible risks involved with secret technologies or unknown phenomena. And finally, it reminds us that even after decades, some mysteries endure, defying easy answers. What do you think really happened to Betty Cash? Vickie Landrum and Colby that night in East Texas? Was it an extraterrestrial encounter, a secret military experiment, or something else entirely? Leave your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. I encourage you to explore the wealth of resources available about the Landrum incident: documentaries, interviews, books, and government documents. Approach the story with an open mind and a critical eye. And remember, the truth might be stranger than fiction. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most compelling and mysterious UFO encounters in history, please like, subscribe, and share. Stay curious, stay questioning, and until next time, keep looking up.